Lars Enarson here with an update October 6, 2024. Tomorrow it is the anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, the worst atrocity that has befallen the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And still a year later, the war is raging, in fact, more intensely than ever before. Last week on Tuesday, Iran attacked Israel with 200 ballistic missiles that rained down over Israel. And the miracle is that not even one Israeli lost its life. No one died from these missiles. It is a pure miracle in answer to prayer, except for one Palestinian in Jericho who unfortunately lost his life from these missiles. So now Israel has promised that they have to give a response to this attack, and nobody knows what is going to take place. Yesterday we finished the celebration of the Feast of Trumpets, the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and the days now, coming days up to Yom Kippur, beginning at sunset on Friday, October 11, are called the days of awe, the 10 days of awe. And we are certainly now in trembling at what is going to take place, waiting for what Israel's response might be. So I want to encourage all of you to pray now as never before for God to grant His wisdom to the leadership in Israel to know what they ought to do. So please be in prayer for this. Now, a month ago, Israel decided to include in the goals of the war the safety of the residents in northern Israel to return to their homes again. Tens of thousands of Israelis have lived away from home for a year now, since Hezbollah attacked Israel unprovoked the day after the massacre on October 7. This decision by the government of Israel to include the safety of the northern residents in the war goals meant in practice that it was the okay for an invasion into southern Lebanon in order to drive Hezbollah away from the border of Israel. In fact, after the war in 2006 against Hezbollah, the peace agreement included the decision that Hezbollah is not allowed south of the Litani River, about 40 kilometers from the border to Israel. And the United Nations was given the task to implement this decision. Of course, that has never happened. Hezbollah has instead increased their military buildup on the border to Israel, planning for an attack like Hamas did on October 7, but in a much greater scale in order to invade Galilee. So in order to restore the safety and the security for the Israelis in northern Israel, Israel has now gone into Lebanon. And the war is raging there with full force, and we need to pray for that as well. In Gaza, it is also intense battles going on, even though it is on a lower scale. Yesterday, Israel received information that Hamas is trying to mobilize and regroup in northern Gaza again, which meant that Israel started an operation there in order to avoid that situation. So what they have decided to do is to move the civilian population away from certain areas in order to completely destroy Hamas area after area. So let us pray for this. Now, one good news is that a recent poll among the Gazans showed that today less than 10% of the population in Gaza are supportive of Hamas, and they do not want Hamas to return to power again after the war is over. This is a tremendous answer to our prayers in line with Zechariah chapter 9, which we have prayed for continuously over the past year, where God promises that the terror in Gaza will cease and the king in Gaza will lose its role. And Hamas is now basically defeated in Gaza. So we thank God for these answers to prayer. Now I want to end this brief update by quoting from Deuteronomy chapter 33, the words that were read in every synagogue around the world on October 7. And I'm reading from verse 26 in Deuteronomy chapter 33 as an encouragement for our prayers. There is none like God, O Jeshurun, a name for Israel, who rides through the heavens to your help, through the skies in his majesty. The eternal God is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And he thrust out the enemy before you and said, destroy. So Israel lived in safety. Jacob lived alone in a land of grain and wine, whose heavens dropped down dew. Happy are you, O Israel, who is like you, a people saved by the Lord, the shield of your help and the sword of your triumph. Your enemies shall come fawning to you, and you shall tread upon their backs. This is what we are continuing to pray for, that God is going to fulfill his promise that Hamas in fact challenged on the very day that these words were read in every synagogue around the world. Thank you for standing with the people of Israel with your prayers. May God richly bless you and reward you. Shalom from Israel.